Who are the best DFS plays on DraftKings and FanDuel for Week 9 in fantasy football? What are the most important takeaways from the Jets and Colts game on Thursday night? And what are the injury updates you know going into the weekend's games? It's time to find out right here, right now, as another episode of Locked On Fantasy Football begins to close the week.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and when I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We've got you covered there for Week 9, Sleepers Bust, my startup sit-em column, any injury updates. We're going to focus on all that here, as well as DFS. So we're going to look at DraftKings and FanDuel. I do offer some picks there, but we'll go more in depth there as the players you need to target across positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end here for your rosters, and good stuff all around. And I will also give you what you need to know from the Jets-Colts game, a wild one where a lot of fantasy points were had if you played the right people. And then any injury updates you need to know. We will get the official designations here later on Friday, but some things to look for there when they come out based on the practice reports early in the week. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. Big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. Thanks for also making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We're free and available for you on all platforms. All right, let's get into the Jets-Colts matchup. Wild one. The Colts go up big. The Jets rally there with Josh Johnson looking pretty good. They almost made it a one-possession game late, but no, didn't happen. Josh Johnson threw an interception there that was tipped in the red zone, so some people were looking for that to hold on for the cover there in that game. So the Colts do cover in the shootout. And let's look at what happened with the Jets. The big revelation there was Elijah Moore, yet another rookie kind of being unleashed here. Last week, Michael Carter got the big touches there in the running game and passing game. They reined in Carter a little bit more. Part of it is with Josh Johnson was not checking down. He did eventually Ty Johnson and scored again. So yet again, Ty Johnson scores on a receiving play that we didn't have Michael Carter get. But it was a disappointing night for Carter. They just didn't use him enough in garbage time when they went back and had a big lead. They also distributed the ball way more than we expected. With Mike White, things were a little bit more streamlined, but White got hurt here early in the game. He did throw a touchdown pass before he left to Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore catches another one. They're fine rookie there for the Jets from Josh Johnson. So a couple catches for him. So Moore, a little bit of a coming out party here with no Corey Davis again, missing another game with a hip injury. Zach Wilson sidelined here. So they lose another quarterback in White. But what we get from the Jets, again, Elijah Moore getting the attention. So Jamison Crowder, Keelan Cole, Ryan Griffin, Denzel Mims. You had all these people get targeted in the passing game for the Jets in the end. So weird passing game, but I think they're going to where the talent lies. And Carter and Moore, the fellow rookies that are out there, to Wilson while they wait for Wilson to return here. But the Jets offense all of a sudden coming to life here. I think what's happened is you've had White and really Johnson being more effective to spread the ball around. Well, Zach Wilson was aggressive trying to throw downfield and not always the best results. And we had Davis out there, but without Davis, they don't have a clear number one. So sometimes what you see is they adjust and throw the ball around. That's what we've seen in the past few weeks. And they've discovered that Moore can be a big factor. And we thought that Moore and Jamison Crowder might be crowded in the same type of role here with slot. And last week with White, might have leaned towards Crowder a little bit more, but Johnson clearly was looking at Elijah Moore more than anyone else to scheme up and get open in this game. So Elijah Moore might have some pretty good wide receiver 3 value going forward. So unfortunate there's a bit of a log jam there that we didn't expect at receiver. We'll see if Davis returns. It is an extended kind of time off here, mini bye. So we expect Davis to play there in their next game. But again, I think they can't ignore that Moore was such a big factor there, and will continue to give him opportunities. Carter will have better days. He's still their lead back. The Colts team is tough to run against. It's easier to pass against, especially in the underneath routes, and that's why we saw more emerge here. And we'll see about Mike White if he's healthy enough. They also have Joe Flacco behind Josh Johnson. But in fact, you would expect if there's no White in the next game that they'll go with Johnson there the way he played there in the second half. So Robert Saleh not exactly going the way expected here as the season progresses up and down. They had the big wins against the Titans and Bengals, but did not show up here against the Colts. Big story of the Colts, Jonathan Taylor just crushed it again. He's locked and loaded. With Derrick Henry on the shelf here for the Titans, he's the number one running back in fantasy football. There's no question about it. He's getting the volume. He's getting the big plays. He's getting the touchdowns. He's a scrimmage machine with 100 yards yet again and another score and a second score. So Jonathan Taylor is just on fire. Nyheim Hines got in the fun. It was a bit of a surprise that Hines had the first rushing touchdown. They hadn't been using Hines at all as a receiver or runner, but all of a sudden that was part of the game plan to get the mismatches created by Taylor and Hines against the Jets' run defense there that killed any usage of Marlon Mack because the Jets made it too close for comfort there late, where the Colts kind of had to be aggressive, needed to get that last tack on field goal to the passing game to make sure that the cushion would be there to defeat the Jets. To Taylor, what can you say? I mean, he's killing it. He's awesome. It's a run-heavy offense. They're finally giving him the consistent touches. So Taylor living up to his immense talent from Wisconsin here in year two, building on his fine rookie season. Michael Pittman, also second-year awesomeness here at wide receiver, made a nice nifty catch and a nice throw by Carson Wentz. It was first ruled incomplete, but he made enough of a move to get another touchdown here. So big catch radius, making plays all over. Wentz looked really good. I mean, they just really couldn't stop anything the Colts want to do, running or passing. So Wentz delivers another 3 TDs. Unfortunately, you didn't get Mo Cox yet again score, but you had Danny Pinter and Jack Doyle get a couple short cheapies there on top of the Pittman one. So you got 3 touchdowns from Wentz, nearly 300 yards. Great game from him, no turnovers. So Wentz just keeps putting up numbers here in Frank Reich's offense. Another game with multiple touchdowns. He seems like one of the safest high floor plays in fantasy football at quarterback at this point with the way he's playing. So the triplets of Pittman and Wentz and Taylor all getting it done here, and maybe expanding a little bit to Hines. We'll see. I wouldn't chase Hines' game. I think a bit of an anomaly here based on the matchup. Frank Reich was overcorrecting to make sure it was more about his running backs this week and more calculated passing, and that's what you saw. Game Colts defense, not what it was, and we said it could be the middle of the road. They might get some turnovers, which they did, but also give up a lot of points. So probably not meeting your expectations there for a streamer, especially on Thursday night, but they end up covering, not in the way we expected, however, in a shootout instead here on Thursday night. All right, let's turn our attention to our options at quarterback here that we want to look at in DFS for the main slate on Sunday. So we'll give you their pricing points at DraftKings and FanDuel. So kind of look as a hybrid here on the players we want to target. I don't like to pay up a quarterback. That's pretty evident from listening to past shows, if you know that. So I'm going to find the quarterback on the higher end that we can pay the most for and get the best return. And this week is Lamar Jackson, 7,300 in DraftKings, 8,300 on FanDuel. Gets the Vikings at home. We know the Ravens are throwing the ball more. The Vikings should have some success throwing the ball as well with Kirk Cousins and running with Dalvin Cook. So Cousins to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. That's going to open things up for Lamar Jackson to throw to Marquis Brown and Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. So I like the throwing. I like the running as well for Lamar against the Vikings. They a little bit banged up on the second level. So Lamar Jackson's where I'm targeting. I could pay up for Josh Allen this week. I don't want to pay up for Kyler Murray with the ankle issue and maybe some wide receiver limitations. Allen, if you want to go all the way up to the top, you could do that against Jacksonville, but I also don't think they're going to have to throw a ton, where I think Lamar's going to have some resistance from the Vikings and put up some numbers in this one. So Lamar, really like the price points. I think you can end up as a QB1 overall, and if he's a few notches below that, then you have to take advantage of that. Now we'll go straight down to more of the bargain area. Derek Carr at 5,900 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. I like that for him. I know people might think it's a trap game after the Giants, but the Raiders are coming off a bye. The Raiders facing a team and the Giants on a short week here. Their defense is going to be shot. He's got key weapons that can work around what the Giants do well, starting with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards, you got Kenny Drake. You got a good, versatile receiving core that they've kind of unleashed here. Derek Carr has been QB1 worthy. He can deliver good return there at 5,900 and 7,500. Going a little cheaper if you want to save 100 on DraftKings and 200 on FanDuel, you go to Tua Tagovailoa against the Texans. What really helps, too, is the fact that Davis Mills is not starting here for Houston. It is Tyrod Taylor, and that means you could have some points in this one. Go back and forth between these two teams. The defenses are both terrible, and that should mean lighting it up. So Tyrod Taylor is also good value, 5,000 DraftKings, 6,900 FanDuel. So you can save a little from Carr to Tua there if you don't want to go Lamar, pay up anywhere else. But if you want to save even more, you can go to Tyrod Taylor there in the same game. Now, Taysom Hill, we have to see for sure if he's starting. I mean, the concussion doesn't seem to be an issue. It seems to be more now that after he got a full practice, whether Sean Payton's going to plug him in as a starter or is he more as a hybrid mix in there with Trevor Siemian getting the nod against the Falcons. But if Hill's in against the Falcons, that's also another good bargain there. 5,500 and 7,000 are his prices. And finally, Jordan Love. I mean, this is sometimes very helpful in DFS when a starter is already priced up there, like Aaron Rodgers, and then all of a sudden something happens in the middle of the week. We got to take advantage of these when we have them. So if you want to go really bargain bin there and take your chances, and if you're in tournament format, some people might be away from Jordan Love. It could be a bit of contrarian play. It's first start. It's hard to do that. If you'd done that last week with Mike White, you'd have been paid off big time. So keep that in mind here. We love 4,400 and 6,000 are his prices on DraftKings and FanDuel. So he's going to have to put up the ball. He's got the weapons there. The game script should help him in Kansas City and all that. So that is as low as you can go and still get good returns from a starter there with Jordan Love. So again, keep in mind, you don't need a lot at that price point. You only need 18 points on FanDuel and really only 13.2 there on DraftKings to really pay off. And I think we'll get that 3K return for sure. I think you'll get more like 4 to 5K with Jordan Love. So that's something you have to think about there if you want to go that direction and load up at the other positions. All right, that takes care of a look at Jets-Colts takeaways from Thursday night. We have the quarterback pricing there and targets there for DFS. We'll get into running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in our next segment. And we'll close with our injury reports. I told you at the top, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. It's a place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team, or the away team can come to recharge. It's a place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. I like my local McDonald's. They're right around the corner from me. I go there sometimes to work and recharge as well and reconnect with the fine people that work there. And also on the road, it's a good go-to stop because we know they're going to be fast and friendly and what we need there to take care of us and get us going back on the road. So head to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect now. Did somebody say Locked On Fantasy Football Watch Party? McDonald's, I'm loving it. All right, let's continue the show here, looking at the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends to target DFS. Again, thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We are free and available to you on all platforms. All right, running back, I'm going to start with Austin Eckler of the Chargers, 7,900 DraftKings, 9,000 on FanDuel. Why Austin Eckler stands out here is the Chargers, they're taking away the big play from Justin Herbert. That's what defenses are doing now. Realizing that they're attacking the right side of the offensive line, getting some pressure. So it's got to be check down central, working in the middle of the field. We know the Eagles play 2 deep safeties. There's an opportunity to throw to the running back quite a bit. Eckler had a big game last week against the Patriots. Things should play out again. You also have Darius big play Slay could be on Mike Williams on the outside. So I think it's a lot of Eckler and Keenan Allen this week. But I particularly like Eckler and that upside there from the pay up 7,900 and 9,000 are his prices. I also think Aaron Jones is going to be a big factor. Now, I don't think it's weird if you want to go Jordan Love and Aaron Jones. Jones is going to be a big factor in the passing game as well as running at the Chiefs. He's a matchup problem for them all over the field. 7,200 and 8,500 are his prices. So a little cheaper. You'll save 700 from Eckler to put in Aaron Jones and 500 there on FanDuel to 8,500 for Jones. But he's going to be a big part of what they do, just like we saw against the Cardinals in Week 8 on Thursday with another kind of shorthandedness with no Devonte Adams and Allen Lazard. So Jones, A.J. Dillon should be a lot more involved. And again, it's not weird to go Lovin Jones as a stack because I think their outcomes are related, and Jones is going to do a lot of work on the passing game to help Jordan Love, including maybe scoring from that capacity as well. Josh Jacobs, I really like. He's well rested. All those injuries he's had earlier in the season may be gone here. The Raiders are fully healthy here, so that's good. Offensive line, everything is good for them here. Derek Carr is playing, so I like Jacobs a lot in cash games this week. 6,200 on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel. He's just going to get the job done. They're going to power. They're going to lead. Everything is there. I'm very surprised how low favorites the Raiders are in this game. I get it's a trap game, cross country, and all that, but the Giants are not playing very well at all. Defensively, the Raiders can do whatever they want in this game. So Carr, I like. Jacobs, I like as well this week. Myles Gaskin in that Dolphins-Texans matchup, 5,800, 6,100. Those are his prices. I would like him a little bit more had this game been more in the favor of Miami, but actually he could be more involved as a receiver now. So gives him a different type of value. I think he gets in the end zone. He gets like 4 or 5 catches in this one. So I do like Gaskin at that price point quite a bit, 5,800 and 6,100. I also do like Zach Moss a lot. I mean, he disappointed last week, but the game script didn't always go to plan there with the Dolphins. They were kind of trailing in that game. So when you look at that, Gaskin at that price point is good, but Moss is even better at 5,300, 6,000 with the Bills now facing the Jaguars. I think they will come through on their big lead and hand it off to Moss quite a bit in the second half after they get some big plays from their wide receivers. So Zach Moss, a lot potential there to have one red zone touchdown, maybe a second one as well in that game. Then I also have to say Boston Scott is still underpriced here, 5,200 on DraftKings, 6,300 on FanDuel. He was the main guy getting the main touches. The Chargers really struggled with straight up running there. So Eckler and Scott, I mean, Eckler on the higher end, Scott on the lower end have really good DFS value this week, 5,200, 6,300. He's going to get the key touches again for the Eagles in a game that should be more back and forth. I wouldn't say the Eagles are going to be in full trail mode. It's only a 2.5 point spread in favor of the Chargers, so a little bit even scoring from both running backs in this game. All right, let's look at wide receiver. The guy that stands out to me is Stefan Diggs, 7,700 on DraftKings, 7,600 on FanDuel. I think he'll continue to make big plays. There's no one on the Jaguars that can cover him. Cole Beasley's a little bit banged up. You have no Dawson Knox. Emmanuel Sanders was quiet last week. So I think this is that old Josh Allen, Stefan Diggs game. They could have a couple touchdown hookups here. Big game in store for Stefan Diggs. He's my top recommendation at wide receiver in DFS this week. Now, Brandon Cooks also gets a bump up from Tyrod Taylor. He did actually have a long touchdown from Davis Mills last week to bounce him back up as a wide receiver 3 with some upside. But yeah, it changes with Taylor. Gives him a legitimate veteran quarterback who's going to get the ball in the hands of Cooks. Remember, Davis Mills was struggling a lot on the road, and Cooks can move around away from Xavier Howard and Byron Jones as well. So again, short area, longer area, a lot of targets are going to come Cooks' way and have good return, 6,100, 6,800. Now, this guy, Marquis Brown, Hollywood is overpriced, I think, on FanDuel at 7,700. So if you want to pay up for that, he's more than Diggs. I don't know if I would go there. 100% I would go Diggs over Brown on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, Marquis Brown is only 6,000. I saw this disparity. It's kind of weird. The matchup is great against Vikings. I don't know why people think the Vikings have a good defense. I mean, it's not very good. It's decent against the run, but their secondary just got destroyed by the Cowboys combination of CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Cedric Wilson. I mean, Marquis Brown has elements of all those guys, field stretching, big plays. It screams like a big day for Marquis Brown. So I love that stack here with Lamar, if you can put him in a lot of lineups this week. Jackson Brown, yeah, you're not going to be running on empty. You're going to be running on total full points here and get the good return. So can we see 3K? Of course we can. Or 3X? Yeah, definitely we see that. With 6 to turn it to 18 points, yeah, you'll definitely get that if for Marquis Brown. A little bit harder to say that you'll get that on FanDuel, but DraftKings run to that value and pair him with Lamar. in a lot of contests, and you'll be good to go. Devonte Parker is kind of taking over from Jalen Waddle as the veteran receiver on the short to intermediate routes for Tua. He should be busy against the Texans, 5,300 and 6,200 for his price points. You have Jarvis Landry at 5,100 for the Browns, 5,900 DraftKings. No Odell Beckham Jr. here. Open things up. We'll see about Donovan Peoples-Jones if he can return from growing injury. But Odell Beckham Jr. is going to help Baker Mayfield not being there. By not being there, he's going to throw to Jarvis Landry quite a bit. The Bengals we saw last week struggled a little bit in coverage against the Jets. So certainly a good volume there for Jarvis Landry. I like that price point a lot. I also like two Raiders this week. If we're liking Derek Carr, we got to like some of his receivers. Hunter Renfrow at 4,800, 5,600. We saw last week some trouble in the slot for the Raiders, and Renfrow should be busy. Again, for them, Henry Ruggs III is out of the equation for that bad incident here. So unfortunately, the Raiders have to move on, but I think fortunately they do have some good bounce back guys. So Hunter Renfrow, I think he's going to be involved with Darren Waller. I really like the price point versus paying up for Waller. I also like Bryan Edwards. It's finally time to get him the ball a little bit more. A nice game before the bye, 4,100 there. So you'll save 700 more by playing Edwards over Renfrow on DraftKings and 5,300 there on FanDuel. So I like Renfrow a little bit more there in either format because I know he's going to be busy for sure with volume and give a good return. I'd say Renfrow is more of the cash game play at that price and Edwards more of the tournament play here for the Raiders. And finally, I like Rashad Bateman too. We talked about Marquis Brown, but Bateman's only $4,000 there. So if you get 12 points from Rashad Bateman, you're really good there in DraftKings. There, and Bateman can also be effective. He's actually more than Edwards on FanDuel at 5,400. So interesting pricing disparities between the two sides. But I think, again, that Vikings-Ravens game is going to be rather high scoring this week. So you want to have as much exposure as you can on either side to that one. That's what I did. I didn't mention Justin Jefferson or Kirk Cousins, but that's also a way to go as a play to hedge your bets with the Lamar and Brown or Lamar and Bateman combination here in week number 9. The tight end, Mike Gesicki, no-brainer at 4,900, 6,500 for the Dolphins against the Texans. Zach Ertz should be busier. AJ Green is on the COVID-19 list. It doesn't look good for DeAndre Hopkins with the hamstring injury. We'll get more on that here on Friday. I think Hopkins could play through it, but we saw what happened last week. So Ertz should be busy again, 4,700, 5,500 there for the Cardinals tight end. I also like the former teammate of Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert for the Eagles, 4,500 there. You have to pay up to 6,200 on the FanDuel, but 4,500 DraftKings. He's cheaper than Ertz. Run to that price point there. Goddard's come on. He's had 2 straight nice games here without Ertz. I think he has his biggest game. Yet the Chargers cannot cover the tight end. Guess what team also cannot cover the tight end based on their looks? It is the Eagles. So that same game, you have a Jared Cook, 3,300. So way cheap here for a play there. So, yeah, if you played Jordan Love and Jared Cook this week, you would have so much money to really splurge at running back and wide receiver. So keep that in mind. I love that price point for sure for Cook. They have to throw underneath, like I said, the 2 deep safeties. We saw TJ Hawkinson have a pretty good game last week. Cook is firmly in the top 12, so very good return if you think about that. So 3,300 and 52 are his price points. They just need to throw to him. That's the one concern with Donald Parham Jr. and some of these other underneath receivers, including Eckler and Allen. But Cook is a good bet. He's overdue for a touchdown as well this week. All right, so that's DFS. The one defense I would target is the Raiders. Just set and forget it. That's the team I'm going for this week against Daniel Jones. So Raiders is the way you want to go on defense for the best value here on DraftKings and FanDuel for week number 9. We'll get into the injury updates in our final segment, but first I got to tell you more about Built Bar. I love Thanksgiving. You should too. All the good food and treats and plenty of them, but maybe you want a yummy dessert, one that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie is upward of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only have 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. So replace that coconut cream pie with a coconut Built Bar. Or go for a raspberry Built Bar instead of that raspberry pie. A lot of good flavors to replace any pie. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein. That's what you get from every Built Bar. Every Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. Share some at your family gatherings. It will make things less awkward. Maybe Aunt Betty hasn't tried a Built Bar yet. She should, so should you. There's new surprises all month. Limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so check the site off. There's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, you'll get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action of the season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, time to close the show. Breaking down the injury updates you need to know here. Let's get right to it. Kyler Murray should play through the ankle. Cliff Kingsbury has said he can start without practicing, and that looks like the case here. Sam Darnold will know later about his concussion and shoulder injury if he can play against the Patriots, but leaning towards P.J. Walker. That would downgrade all the Panthers' weapons. We'll see if Christian McCaffrey can return. We'll get into that. Baker Mayfield going to continue to play through the left shoulder injury against the Bengals. Dak Prescott is going to return. He went full on Thursday with a calf injury, so he's back. We know Aaron Rodgers is not playing, COVID-19. Jordan Love will start. Deshaun Watson, personal issue there, not playing for the Texans. Tyrod Taylor gets the start there for Houston. Justin Herbert had a little bit of a right-hand issue. He's good to go this week. Matthew Stafford's been rested and practiced back. It is concerning because that was the big injury that kept him out for much of his final time with the Lions. So we'll track that, but he should be good to go here for the Titans. Tua Tagovailoa now has a left finger injury, non-throwing with the ribs. Throwing for Tua, but in this case, not throwing because it's not going to affect his ability here to be fine against the Texans. Jameis Winston, we know, is not going to play against the Falcons with a knee injury. So Taysom Hill, concussion, got into full practice, should be cleared from the protocol there. We'll see what Sean Payton does between him and Trevor Siemian for the Falcons. Getting Hill's in. Hill has a lot of appeal in fantasy football. Siemian, much less so this week. Ben Roethlisberger, pectoral and hip injury, is good to go here for Monday Night Football. Chase Edmonds playing through shoulder will be fine for the Cardinals against the 49ers. Latavius Murray's missed 2 practices with the ankle injury, so it could be more of Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell and Tyson Williams against the Vikings. Christian McCaffrey's got a little bit of practice. We'll see if they can take him off IR to play on Sunday against the Patriots. That would be a big boost, of course, especially P.J. Walker starting, so we'll watch that. David Montgomery has been designated to return, getting some practice in here, so he could be available there for Monday night against the Steelers. That would complicate things with Khalil Herbert. Damian Williams did not practice with a knee injury, so he could be out. It could be Montgomery-Herbert committee there against a tough Steelers run defense. James Robinson, we'll see what he can do on Friday. 2 missed practices with the heel injury. He cost him most of the game against the Seahawks last week. Carlos Hyde has a calf injury, but he would replace him. He got full practice there. Austin Eckler will play through the hip injury again. Justin Jackson, however, may not play with a quad injury, so even more reason to like Eckler with higher volume this week. Saquon Barkley, it's either an ankle or COVID-19. He's not going to play against the Raiders with Devontae Booker. Elijah Mitchell had a bit of a ribs issue, but he'll play for the 49ers and start. Not JaMychal Hasty and Trey Sermon are standby. I don't think Jeff Wilson Jr. will be activated here, but he's back in practice as well, so something to keep in mind. DeAndre Hopkins, hamstring 2 missed practices. We know DeAndre always plays, but I'd be a little bit wary of playing him with the aggravation last week, and there's a chance he could actually miss his first real action for the Cardinals. AJ Green on the COVID-19 list. So if AJ Green and Hopkins are sidelined, it really helps Christian Kirk and Rondell Moore quite a bit by default against the 49ers. Secondary, Calvin Ridley going to miss another game, taking a break here from the NFL. So Calvin Ridley out for the Falcons. Cordarrelle Patterson's the only running back / wide receiver to play for that team. Russell Gage has a growing injury, but kind of faded behind Tajay Sharp last week. For the Falcons, Sammy Watkins could return to help Lamar Jackson, but Rashad Bateman is now the starter opposite Hollywood Brown. Cole Beasley is one we're going to watch. He's missed 2 practices, ribs injuries. Again, it's about pain tolerance when you have the ribs. We know that Robert Gronkowski has missed a lot of time with that. So we'll see. Beasley may be sidelined here for the Jaguars game, and it's the Jaguars. I think the Bills will have that back in their mind and maybe not take any chances with their slot receiver. Terrace Marshall should return for the Panthers. We'll see if he helps either P.J. Walker or Sam Darnold. Odell Beckham Jr. is not going to be playing for the Browns, and maybe no one else this weekend released here. So it's over for OBJ, and we'll have to see where he lands. I don't think he's going to land in a good spot where we really attracted him in fantasy except for the Saints. Jarvis Landry is going to play through the knee. Donovan Peoples-Jones could see a big bump up in targets now. He should return from his growing injury. So Bengals, Amari Cooper has a hamstring injury. CeeDee Lamb has an ankle injury. Both the Cowboys wide receivers are great for the Broncos. Tyreek Hill has an ankle injury. He'll be good against the Packers. Robert Woods has missed 2 straight practices with a foot injury for the Rams, but there's no concern from the Rams reporters or inside the building. They're just being load management wary here. That's what the Rams kind of do. They don't take any chances with injuries with key players in practice, and so Woods should be out there for Sean McVay and Stafford. Devonte Parker will keep playing through the shoulder and hamstring injuries. I don't think you'll have Ty Montgomery for the Saints. He's got a hamstring injury, so limits their wide receiver depth against the Falcons. Kenny Golladay could return. He got a limited practice in for the Giants, but he could see a lot of a tough matchup there for the Raiders. Sterling Shepard and Dante Pettis will miss the game. Kadarius Toney should play here for the Giants. Jalen Reagor could play for the Eagles, limited with the ankle injury. He suffered against the Lions, but not interested in him at all. Deebo Samuel, good to go with his calf injury. Julio Jones could return with a hamstring for the Titans. Let's go to tight end. Dawson Knox should be good to go with his hand injury, but not this week. He didn't practice. It's a frustrating thing. So no Knox, no Beasley potentially here could really open things up more for Diggs. That's why we like Diggs in DFS. So no Dawson Knox. Make other plans here. Other than that, Noah Fant has got the COVID-19 list here, so he's probably going to miss the game against the Cowboys. We'll monitor that, but that's the case, so you have to pivot and go elsewhere at tight end. Travis Kelce will keep playing through his neck injury. Let's hope he plays a little bit better. Affected him against the Giants, plays the Packers this week. Eric Ebron could return for the Steelers. That would cut into Pat Freiermuth's attention here. Ebron is going with the hamstring. George Kittle looks like he will return. Last but not least, a good way to end here the injury updates. A little bit positivity here. George Kittle doing enough here. Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, all think he's going to be back this week. So George Kittle, we know, has a good history against the Cardinals. They need somebody there that should make the 49ers all the more dangerous. And Jimmy Garoppolo more appealing as a streamer with Samuel and Kittle now making plays for him this week. So there you have it. There's a look here at the injury updates. We went through DFS and DraftKings and FanDuel. We went through Thursday night football takeaways. That's how we close a week here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Don't forget our next episode will be Monday, Roundup Monday, where we look at all the important takeaways from all the Week 9 Sunday action here for you in fantasy football. We'll start another week there on Locked On Fantasy Football. Now make your second listen to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis. Less than 30 minutes is free, available for you on all platforms, just like this show. For Locked On Fantasy Football for this week, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Good luck in all your matchups this week, whether you're playing season-long or DFS, and we'll catch you hopefully as winners here on Monday.